Welcome to the Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind podcast with Corey Shapiro. We are up to the eBook Chapter 5, Part 5 of the series on our eBook. Chapter 5 is Understanding the Divorce Budget. The first 4 chapters looked at you and your patterns, your beliefs, your habits that may be escalating your divorce. Now we're changing the focus in Chapter 5. We're focusing on more external issues. And the first one's so important to so many, the divorce budget. Now, high conflict divorces are not usually sprints, they're marathons. This means you have to manage your resources wisely. What are your resources? Well, it's your emotions, your money, your energy, your time. Now, there's generally 2 approaches I see in high conflict divorce. I got this from the war thinking. You got the shock and awe approach, and you have the war of attrition. Shock and awe, a lot of noise early on, hoping you'll settle, like a quick torture. And the war of attrition, that's like the Vietnam War. It's going to go on forever, wearing you down. All right, let's go over each category one by one. We're going to start with emotion. Now, we want to conserve our emotion, obviously. How do we do that? We focus on what is important. And this is the most deadly emotion because emotion, I think, maybe 10 times or 100 times the complications of a divorce. So anything you can do to move out of that emotional side into that rational side, the better. All right, we're moving on to the money category. Now, even if you have unlimited budget, most people don't want to waste money, and also spending money doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a better result. Unfortunately, a lot of attorneys do the hourly model, not a flat fee or fixed fee model. So they are incentivized just to drag things on because they have to show they did work to get paid. So you need to really conserve your money budget for most people. All right, energy. Energy. I talk about this all the time. You want to prioritize self-care. You want to do sleep, regular sleep time if you can. So important. At least 5-6 days a week. You want to do physical activity, even if it's 20 minutes a day, even if it's just walking. It's going to feel so much better. Keep your nutrition up. You can journal, which is like free therapy. I journal almost every day. It is fantastic. You want to do some visualizations. What I mean by that is take a journey where you see yourself in 3 years and 5 years. So helpful to give yourself motivation when you are feeling down. And you can do a meditation. You can do a walk-in meditation. You know, when you're walking, you don't have to listen to your podcast. You don't have to check your phone. You can just let your mind wander. Your mind's a supercomputer. It will figure things out. But these marketers, they hijack in our mind. So whatever you can do when you are feeling, I'm not talking about dwelling on the negative. I'm talking about thinking about something that's going to give you some joy and just let it ruminate. Okay? All right, let's move on to the time budget. This one is, a lot of this is in your control. It doesn't seem that way because we get so reactive. Anytime you have a meeting with your attorney, anytime you have a meeting with the other side, what they call 4 ways or 5 ways with a mediator, you want to have an agenda. I don't do meetings unless they have an agenda because maybe it's just going to be the opportunity for the other side to lay into you, to tell you how wrong you are, how weak your case is. Have an agenda. And if they go off agenda, get back on. If they can't, end the meeting. You know, now with virtual meetings, this is so much easier. Another thing I've seen is a lot of attorneys, for some reason, have this Friday schedule. They send all these emails out on Friday. Everything's on a Friday. So you don't have to respond to it over the weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Prioritize self-care over the weekend. Wait to return a reply on Monday. It will be there. All right, let's move on to our divorce quote. It comes from William Shakespeare. It is, presume not that I am the thing that I was. I see this so much. people, especially who marry young, they grow apart. And they might not necessarily have a high conflict divorce because even though they might not be in love in the way they want, there is some respect. Maybe they have family. But things change and it's okay. And there's a lot of guilt moving on for a lot of people getting divorced in these stale marriages. So just think about that William Shakespeare quote to help you move on. All right, divorce news. There was a study about how divorce impacts work. I will put the study in the show notes. Before the study, it seems there's not been that much research on this issue. But here's what they found. They did 2 studies, these researchers. The first study surveyed 500 people, and they were going through a divorce within 5 years. Okay. And on average, they found what we're all going to believe, which is like lower health, poor job performance, and just a negative mood. That was on average. So nearly 44% of those going through a divorce agreed or strongly agreed that being in the process of a divorce had a negative impact on their work. Negative impact. So that's almost half. And then nearly 39% of those going through a divorce agreed or strongly agreed that had a positive impact. All right, so that's surprising, right? Some, a little bit more say it's negative, some say it's positive. So they reacted all over the map. It seems that some felt more distracted while others were removed from this large stressor in their lives. Maybe it depends on who wants a divorce. And the other study the researchers did, this was with 200 participants, and they found that of the end of what they determined to be a higher quality marriage, and the expectation of less financial stability were both tied to negative impacts at work. So that makes sense. I mean, if you didn't want the divorce and you thought you were in a higher quality marriage, or if you had some, financial comfort and that's not going to work for you anymore, that can be very negative. They also found that parents going through divorce experienced less grief and reported fewer negative impacts at work than those divorcing without children. And finally, they found engagement at work, job performance, and health improved from where they were in a divorce process a year later. So as time went on, they adjusted. All right, question. My lawyer has filed a motion to relieve themselves from my case because I'm no longer able to pay the bills. I'd like to keep my lawyer on and work out payments later. Without my lawyer, I don't think I stand a chance. What can I do to oppose my lawyer's motion to be relieved? Well, that's an interesting question to ask an attorney. Obviously, I am biased. Most people like to get paid for their work. You can understand that as well. On the other hand, people going through a divorce, at least I don't see this yet. There's no divorce insurance. Like if there was a health emergency, there's, health insurance. And where we're supposed to come up with all this money to pay expensive hourly fees for lawyers to get a divorce. Of course, when people get married, I think it's the same way. How do you come up with all this money? Maybe to buy an engagement ring, to throw a party that lasts one day that costs, so much money. So these are real issues. Now, what I would say, it's very particular to the jurisdiction and to the judge. Here in New York, what I can tell you is this. If there's since you said there was a motion, but let's just back up a little bit. Let's say there's no case pending. I think it's pretty easy for the lawyer to get out. But now let's say there's a case pending. Some judges, and this depends on the judge, has rules that they can't get out without making a motion to the court. Maybe that's what your lawyer did. And the judge wants to see if you have another lawyer, right? Because the courts may be concerned you're going to represent yourself. You might not do as good of a job. They don't want to hurt your positioning in court. And I think it really depends on the judge and the lawyer and your relationship. If you have a decent relationship with the lawyer, it may be challenging for the lawyer to get out, especially the closer it is to trial. The closer it is to trial, I think the courts find that's really prejudicial to you. But if the trial's really far away and maybe you two aren't getting along, or at least there's some dispute about that, maybe the lawyer has a chance of getting out. So I don't know if this is helpful for you. If you can't work out a payment arrangement, you can't borrow money, there are some legal financing options. I would say the closer you are to trial, as a general rule, the judges may be loath to relieve counsel, and the further away from trial, they may be more open to that. It's very fact specific, though. I hope this gives you a little bit of a road map. All right, moving on to the positives perspective. But I want to tell you something short and sweet. You can do it one step at a time. We've been doing this ebook summary, and it just brings me back all those years ago where I didn't feel like I can finish that book. When I started writing the book, I would just literally sit there at the computer saying, I can't write anything. And much better writers than me came up with some great quotes that says, if I was waiting for perfection, I wouldn't write a damn thing. That's my summary of what they're saying. And that's the point. One step at a time, you can do it. You will be surprised. Time goes by. All right. In closing, remember, this podcast is for informational purposes only. Please consult with your attorney before acting on the information contained in this podcast. Until next time, be creative, not reactive.